In this episode, we talk with Mike Montague, founder and CEO of Avenue9 and host of the Human First AI Marketing podcast. Mike explains how businesses can use AI to strengthen trust, improve sales conversations, and create better content without losing the human thinking behind it. We also discuss AEO, practical AI tools, and where automation still needs a person in the loop. Okay, today on the Killer Use Case podcast, we have Mike Montague from Avenue9, founder and CEO. Welcome to the show, Mike.
Hey, good to be here. I know that we chatted on my show, the Human First AI Marketing podcast, so I'm excited to return the favor and share any tips I can with your audience.
Yeah, that was about a year ago, and I imagine things have changed dramatically for you guys in the past year. So let's dive right in. To start, if you just could give some background on yourself and Avenue9 and what it is that you guys do.
Sure. I kind of tell this story starting with being in the corporate world and being a marketer and trying to just do content marketing, thought leadership, and good inbound marketing for large companies. And when AI hit, I was like, man, I can do my job in a tenth of the time. I might as well try and do it for 9 more companies and make 9 times the amount of money. So that's kind of where Avenue9 came from. But lots of other reasons too. I is the 9th letter in the alphabet, so Avenue9 is actually AI built in there
Hey, all right.
too. So that's fun. But what you came for really is the goodness. I figured out some tools to use AI in a human first way to not just like automate my job or to create more slop, but if I was really going to use AI to connect and have better relationships, build more trust with my customers, and have better sales conversations, what would that look like? And that's really how I spent the last 2 years. And it's been really fun. And we've been figuring out a lot of tools along the way in order to do that.
Got it. Got it. And so that's interesting, kind of the genesis here. One could look at AI and think, oh no, it's coming for my job. Or one could look at it and say, hey, what a big opportunity this is. Why don't I make some changes and go after it? And, you're one of the companies that, that's in a fairly unique position in that you were able to build AI first, right? Most of the AI marketing agencies were marketing agencies 3 years ago, and now they're AI marketing agencies, right? How has being able to build it first, has that given you an advantage, do you think?
Well, sort of. I mean, I had my own marketing agency about like 10 years ago, and then I took the corporate job and the big paycheck for a while and stuff. And so I am from, it's not like I was learning marketing. I think what my clients hire me for though is the sitting in between, that a lot of AI nerds don't know anything about sales and marketing, and a lot of sales and marketing gurus don't know anything about AI. So I like to bridge that gap. In fact, I have clients that are marketing agencies that hire me to do the AI stuff. And I have a client that's an IT company who knows all about AI, and they hire me to do the marketing stuff and bridge that gap. And so I think you're onto something there. Of what I was trying to build was something that was like directed at humans first, but really AI forward. That like, I'm not going to slow down. I want to use all the tools at my disposal in order to really have like the best company possible and not worry about like legacy systems, or did I have a whole bunch of SEO clients and now I got to call it AEO and tell them all about it, or like a bunch of people on payroll and staff. I think is probably the biggest thing that I could really say, okay, let's see how much we can do with a small team, and then if we really need more help, hire people. And I work with contractors and 1099 people and partners and other vendors to kind of fill in the gaps, to really say like, how nimble can I be? How impactful can I be with the smallest team and the most, effective AI tools that I can find?
Got it. Got it. So you've already mentioned it several times, but I want to drill into this a little bit. What does it mean to you to be human first AI marketing?
There's kind of three ways. So for me, first is like, putting your customers first. A lot of people think, oh, I could save, 10 times the amount of my time, but does it make it a better experience for your customer? Is really the first thing I would challenge people with. Second thing is, for employees, I don't want to outsource or automate somebody's complete job. So I always use the Terminator versus Iron Man analogy, which is the Terminator is an autonomous AI agent that goes out to accomplish the mission. Iron Man is a human wrapped in technology with Jarvis AI in their ear, enabling them to be a superhero. And so that's really what I try to focus on with my team. And then also, for like the owner, I think it's really important to remember that you have to do the human strategy first. You have to do the thinking first. I think of AI as an accelerator or an amplifier. And it's like, if you got a bad marketing strategy and a bad business, you're going to fail faster with AI than you ever could have before. If you have a great one, you can go bigger and further than you ever have before. But it's not going to fix, AI to a bad business is not going to fix the problem, especially marketing.
And it's amazing how convincing it can be that it's giving you a good strategy, right? It's easy to fall into that trap where you're just kind of believing everything that it says, and it really does, it really will like fall down at the first step, right? At the strategy step, if you're not careful.
I think the important thing to remember there is that like it's trained on the internet, the whole of the internet. And most people are really bad at strategy. But even if we averaged it out, you're going to get like a 50% grade. It's trained on everything from the worst strategy humans have ever invented to the best one. So how do you narrow down what the best one is? And that's where I work with my clients a lot on context engineering. Like it might know a marketing strategy, but does it know the right one for your business, your age, your experience, your clientele, like the strengths and weaknesses of your individual team? Probably not, unless you give it all of that context. And I think that's where the real impact for myself and my clients comes in.
Some of the very best strategies don't exist anywhere on the internet because they were kept secret, right? And so that's part of this
There's
too.
some of that too, but also I have a problem with stealing anybody's strategy that already exists because it's like following somebody else's treasure map, but they didn't start in the same place as you, and their treasure's already gone because they got to the X before you. So so why would you follow somebody else's treasure map, right?
Yeah. Oh, that makes sense. That makes sense. So I'm curious, folks that listen to this show are often like, I mean, they're practitioners, right? They're doing the work. Is there a like, and I don't want you to give away any secret sauce,
I
but
will
well, I
happily.
kind of do,
Yeah.
um, but don't if you're not comfortable with it. But is there like a fundamental orchestration platform tool that powers a lot of the different kind of AI initiatives and tasks and things like that? Or would you describe it as more of like a smattering of tools that you have the right tool for the right job?
More of a smattering of tools. There's no one size fits all. I equate the large language models, the big ones everybody uses. If you're not using one of those, find one now. ChatGPT, Claude, Copilot, Grok, whatever you like. Pick one and use that as sort of your Swiss Army knife. So it's got a lot of tools. It can do a lot of things. But also, if you're trying to build a house, you need more than just a Swiss Army knife, right? That's going to take you a long time. So I think that's where I go, okay, if I need to make a presentation, I want to use Gamma because that's going to be like the chainsaw of presentation. That's going to buzz right through it and get me a lot further than a Swiss Army knife. And then, I think about other tools too of whether it is not just generative AI that solves a problem. So I spoke last week in New Orleans to a group of bankers, and I was telling them about the different ways to use AI. And it's not just to like make marketing materials. That's not the point. But you've mentioned automation is a big key. Machine learning is interesting and like personalizing offers to the right person. There is predictive analytics who can tell you who the right person actually is that should be buying from you. We now have AEO strategies and stuff, which is a lot different than SEO. And that may have something to do with generative content, but mostly like AI is not learning from AI created content in the first place. They're looking for human conversation. So I have a whole different strategy there. And so that's where I start thinking about the right tool for the right job. There's also some really great general tools with just like if you're not using whisper flow to dictate and not and not type anymore, you're missing out. It saved me from carpal tunnel over the last year for sure. And just general AI summaries and Zoom. We're in Riverside right now, but anything that'll grab a transcript of a meeting or a conversation is a huge tool in your belt because that captures all the data and all the conversations you couldn't get before. Same thing with
Yeah.
customer service tickets. This is the last one I'll say is like if you're not collecting your customer service tickets and using that data to inform and build context, I think you're also missing out.
Yeah, it's kind of like, generative AI is sucking all the oxygen out of the collective room, but like, don't forget about machine learning, guys. It's where generative AI came from. It's super powerful on its own.
Yeah.
We've had all these things for like decades, some of them, and we're
Especially
sleeping.
marketing automation. Yeah. I mean, that's been around for a long time. That's not new, but it's getting better and better. And there's some really cool things you can do with it.
Yeah. So another kind of practical question, you know, for the software development life cycle, as an example, much of that can be largely automated at this point. But UI UX design, nope, it cannot. Where have you found in your workflows where the technology just isn't there yet? You mentioned strategy, right? And I think we're aligned on that. But are there any other gaps in the workflows other than kind of human reviews of stuff, but where it just kind of falls down and doesn't get the job done?
Yeah, I think a lot. I think we're only at maybe 20% of actual like jobs AI can do at this point, especially in sales and marketing. I don't think any of the tools for like having a conversation with another human being are worth a damn. There's some, chat bots that might be able to answer really easy, common FAQ style, customer service questions. If you're a retail business or business to consumer and you've got thousands of people asking the same thing over and over again, sure, AI can do that. But there's so much troubleshooting and problem solving. And then even to get those to work, there's a lot of humans pulling strings behind it that I think people don't realize. And especially in my world in marketing is I might use AI to create a rough draft or a title and then use it to create the outline and then use it to write a first draft. But then I'm editing. And then once I edit, I'm going to copy and paste it into the CMS, or I'm going to rewrite it for a tool or ask for a draft of a LinkedIn post. But something's got to schedule that LinkedIn post. And we're not in a world yet, as far as I'm concerned, where that's just like click start process and it runs. Every Monday it scrapes something off the internet and writes a LinkedIn post for me and posts it. Those tools do exist. In my opinion, they are not effective at all. I guess to broaden the level of effective, they might post something, but whether that's going to get you any business or not, or you're going to be proud of what's posting on your behalf is a whole nother story. And I think we're just there with a lot of stuff from image generation to video to all of the other things that AI is kind of hype and promising now is that you got to do a lot of work to set the strategy, to write the prompt, to fight with it, and then get the prompt right. And then also take what you've used and leverage it in the right situation. So I always kind of put those in like three buckets. You got to know what you're trying to do or make. You need to know like what pieces you need to do or make that thing. And then you have to do them in the right order as well and get everything across all the channels where they need to be. And they're kind of three different jobs, but all of them need humans in the loop there.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense. So you mentioned AEO. this may seem basic for you, but there are a lot of people that don't even know what AEO stands for.
Yeah.
Can you talk a bit about what AEO really is and what some of the techniques are and how it's different from SEO, which I'm assuming everybody's familiar with?
Yeah. So really, in some ways, SEO is the right term, but that's search engine optimization. But search has dramatically changed. So as of this summer, and probably about the time this recording airs, the number of AI searches will outnumber the number of Google searches, which is wild in 3 years, considering that, like, Google had a 20-year head start. That millions and billions of searches have changed the way that people are getting their answers now. So AEO stands for answer engine optimization, which I think is a nice term that I've chosen as my term that I'm going to use because it is a lot more questions. We ask AI for stuff. We don't just type in keywords, or we don't do random searches like, car repair, Boston, or whatever. We're going to ask, like, where is the closest, oil change place to me and stuff. That it has really evolved the way people are searching, and AI especially. The conversations are very long, and the sentences are very long. They're not 3 to 5 keywords anymore. So that's a major shift in the way people are searching for your business and discovering that your business exists. Now, I'll give you two more things here. One is people also call it LLMO, which is dumb. I think we're really confusing things. They call it GEO, which is generative engine optimization. Geo-targeting is already a thing in marketing, so I don't like that term. And it's not just about generative either. It's about the ways people are searching and finding and discovering your business. And AIO starts getting into old McDonald realm. But any of those terms really mean the same thing, which is, how do people find your business if they don't know about you? And then AEO is really about being a trusted resource. And if you go to my website, avenue9.com, you scroll to the bottom, there's a link where you can get a free trust profile. You can enter your website link, and it will go to the AIs and get a score for you out of 5 stars, how much AI trusts your business at the moment. And then there's some recommendations for what you can do about it. But what I love about it is it's really aligned the way humans and the AI start to trust your business. So we can get into this more if you want, but humans trust businesses based on their credibility, their reliability, their authenticity, and their generosity. And now AI is starting to do the same, where search could be gamed a little bit. It was more about an algorithm and sort of, more of trust signals or proxy. AI seems to be a lot more like a learned behavior, like human trust, than it is some sort of algorithm. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. And so if somebody's listening, they're a small business owner, let's say, and they're not coming up in even you said Google search, but half of the Google searches now end up being Gemini responses, right? And they end
Right.
up being answers, right? So if they run an oil change company and they ask Gemini and they're not coming up, what should they do? Like, how can they work on that? It sounds like you have a great tool on the avenue9.com website, so check that out. But what else can be done?
There's a couple of things. Some of it goes back to original SEO stuff that every time we've kind of come up with these tools, we start with really dumb, obvious metrics, which is like, if AI goes to your website and looks at what's on it, can it find the answer to the question it's looking for and serve it up? So there's sort of an instant answer. And then AI has these like thinking pre-trained answers that takes like every 6 months or so, they come out with a new model. ChatGPT just released a new one. Everybody comes out with a new model every 3 to 6 months. And that is a training data based on stuff they scraped from publicly available information, and they get them from different places. So I'm trying not to super nerd out here, but I feel like you got some nerds in your audience, huh?
That we do very
Yeah.
much.
So, it's pretty obvious, I think, what people have been able to figure out. Like Google owns YouTube. So Gemini is going to get a lot of YouTube transcripts and things like that. Maybe that's a place you want to be. Microsoft owns LinkedIn. And so Microsoft and OpenAI can use a lot of that data. Perplexity and Claude, like Reddit and Wikipedia, as places to go. So those are the 4 places I would try to go to get listed to get into the longer term searches. But in the short term, you can put up a file that's called the llms.txt file, TXT, where you can just tell AI all the context about your business and the frequently asked questions and what you stand for and what your brand promise is and all that stuff. And if they happen to be looking, it does a pretty good job of pulling off of that and taking your word for it at the moment. I think that's going to change pretty quickly because people lie. And we saw this with SEO, that when Google was looking at the meta description and keywords, it's pretty easy for like a porn company to just put in any keywords on the page and then end up ranking high and showing what they want to show once you land on that page. So I don't think it will be very long that AI will take your word for it, but right now it currently does. And if somebody looks for your website or puts it in, you want to make sure it says the right thing. And then the rest of it is just reputation building.
Yeah, it's an interesting time, right? Like you've been in the biz long enough to remember when SEO was the Wild West, and you could just do keyword stuffing. You
Yeah.
had
It's the
words at
best.
the bottom
I
of
made a
your
lot of money.
website with the same background color as the font, and it has matured. But that's kind of where we're at with AEO right now. And so, like, some of these little tricks, which seem silly, are actually working today. But like you said, I don't know how long they're gonna last. But it's interesting times. Well, okay, so those are great practical tips. Nerd out a little bit. Let's zoom back out. So I remember it was about 2.5 years ago where I was kind of waiting for a shoe to drop with generative AI. And my test was I was pretty sure that some tool should be able to convert a Figma design file into perfect React front end code. I knew that was coming. And I just kept trying tools, and they all sucked. And they all had problems, and they all didn't work for one reason or another. And then one day it worked.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a big inflection point for me saying, okay, it's go time. I'm curious, did you have a similar experience? Was there any sort of shoe drop moment with the marketing tools where you thought, whoa, I'm going to quit my job and start an agency because this stuff is crazy powerful? Did you have a moment like that?
Yeah, I think there have been several. One of them was just the original generative AI that I mentioned before. I've been working as a professional marketer for 25 years. And for 23, 22 of those years, I was creating a lot of content. I mean, I've done over 1,000 podcasts, and that means there's 1,000 blog posts, 1,000 podcast descriptions, 1,000 social media posts that go with all those. At one point, I had Grammarly on my computer, and I was writing over 10,000 words a week, which is basically like a full book of, a business self-help book every week for the company I was working for. That's a lot. So when generative AI kind of hit critical mass there with ChatGPT, I realized that something big changed with the amount I could produce. And then I could edit and I could still write. And even if I took the first draft, just the sort of dictation speed and quality I could create jumped dramatically. The other flip side of that, though, is what happens with podcast conversations and sales conversations, is that once it really understood language, that means now I can take this podcast transcript and turn it into all of those things that I need to make. I don't have to have a human. I was doing it myself. Then I was paying somebody overseas, and then we were paying people in-house, and then I had an outside vendor to just listen to the 30-minute conversation Hunter and I had, write down the keyword tags, like make stuff up, write a description, write a blog post, write the social media, and now AI can listen to it, and it doesn't take hours and hours to do. It can be done in 15 minutes after the show. Listen to it, give me a comma separated keyword list, give me 10 ideas for the title, give me 3 meta descriptions, tag and timestamp all the most important moments of the show. And I realized that I could use that to do the same thing on sales calls. Give me a transcript of the Zoom call. Tell me what I missed. What are the action items? What were their pain points? What are people looking for? What questions do I need to get answered and back to them so that they can say yes? And all of a sudden, that unlocked a whole nother level of conversations that I mentioned earlier, customer success conversations. What I do at Avenue9 is interview the founder, the top salesperson, the best clients, and compile like a database of stories for them based on their real human language. And I can learn about my clients so much faster. Then I think the last one for me was really kind of images. I wasn't sold on, I'm still not sold on AI avatars and other things unless I'm doing like foreign language or other translations that it wouldn't be really possible for a human to do. But when went from like not being able to do fingers and stuff correctly to, like you said, oh wow, no, now it works. That unlocks a whole nother level of creativity. So I'll give you my last one. I don't think I've mentioned. Yeah, I did. Gamma app for creating presentations was like a magic wand, and I would say a good 20 to 80% of a marketer's job is doing PowerPoint presentations internally or externally. And if I can do that in 2 minutes instead of like 2 days or hours, that is a game changer of what I'm able to deliver for myself and my clients. So those are kind of the timelines for me.
Yep, those were all big ones. Those were all big ones, especially kind of in the marketing space. I wanted to highlight one thing that you just said there. And this is more for the listeners. What Mike just mentioned is that you can get so much juice out of a single piece of long form content now. You can chop it up in 100 different ways and post it everywhere. But the key is that the original content came from the human, right? You have to think and you have to write on your own. And we do that here at Barefoot, right? I also guest on podcasts for the exact reason that you described. And I write a newsletter and I've written a book. And I did these things, like I led these things personally, right? But you give that to an AI machine, and you've got a year's worth of content that you can be posting, right? Because it's on the YouTubes and on the LinkedIn's and all the places, right? And you chop it up into bits and lists and all the rest of it. But you need to do the thinking in the original creation, or otherwise it's just slop, right?
Yeah,
And we don't want slop.
no. And the way I describe it is like concentrated orange juice. I call it degenerative engineering or AI, because instead of like generating something from a small prompt and creating a huge document, like write me a book, it's not going to be very good. It's going to water it down, right? But AI is really good at going the other way. When you write the book and you say, boil this book down to one sentence that really matters, like what is this about? It can look at all of it, recognize those patterns and say, this is the thing. This is the thing that makes this book different. And it's not 100%, but it's way better than when it goes the other way. So think about that like concentrated orange juice. If you create something that's really strong and powerful, when AI waters it down, you still get great stuff for your audience. If you start with weak thinking or a weak idea first, when it waters it down, you just get slop. And I think that's a great point you made.
Yeah. Yeah. So, we'll wrap here with one last question. what are you when you're not in a client cycle and you're working on your business, not in it, what are you working on right now? What's the next like frontier that you're kind of like medium term thing that you're chipping away at? I know you've got at least one. What is it, or are they?
The first one that came to mind is a book. So I have this A9 factor framework that I came up with that I'm trying to turn into a book, and I've done several drafts with AI, and I've just not been happy with it. I don't know if you've experienced the same thing, but sometimes the models update and they change your voice a little bit, or they start following the instructions more or a little bit less. And it just like I have all the content there, but it's not sounding great. So I feel like I need to, if I have some time away, step back and go, I'm just going to write this myself at this point. I've tried the AI shortcuts. They're not working. I need to dive into it and get it done. And I think when I write something cool, that's going to be a big game changer for my business because the stuff works and the content's good. I've written other books and had a lot of fun and success with it, and it opens a lot of doors and stuff for me. So I'm really looking forward to that. In the other short term, probably that's maybe a long term project, but the short term is I'm having a lot of fun with Claude and co-work and just the code and other stuff that's happening now. I think there was a game changer this year where it became from unusable and unreliable or like something just for nerds to something where it can actually store context, access files that you give it, and do some actual sort of management and assistant level work without kind of really going crazy and off the rails. So I'd love your thoughts on that and any tips you have. I'm sure you have opinions on vibe coding, and we don't have time to get into it incredibly, but I think there's a big difference between needing to build something that's client facing and like, I don't know if I need to pay $800 a month for HubSpot anymore. If I can kind of get my own dashboard that has the data that I want on it and stuff. What's your take on this? I didn't get a chance to ask you recently.
Yeah, I mean, so first of all, there's a few things that I want to talk to you after we stop recording about. You know, I just got off a call with somebody. Their last question to me was, okay, where should I start if I want to like level up in my work? And you just said it, and I'll say it again here. It's Claude Cowork. And it's don't just use Claude Cowork like Claude. The keys with Claude Cowork are creating projects, but even more important, developing skills, right? Once you've identified a repeatable action in your Claude Cowork, you say, now I want you to create a skill for this. And it'll draft up a big MD file, which is a markdown file that the LLMs like. And the next time you need to go do it, you don't have to explain everything again, or you don't have to say, no, remember last time the way that we did it? You just say, use this skill to do to do the same thing, but for a different client, or because it's the next month or whatever. And so when people ask me, how do I level up or where do I get started? I say, go download Claude Cowork, pay for your subscription, and come back to me after you created your first skill. And let's talk again about what else you can do. Now, I say that because that's accessible to everybody. Where I'm at, because I'm an engineer, is fully blown agentic workflows, dozens of agents, some automated, some human driven. It's all through my Slack, and I don't leave Slack anymore. The only time I leave Slack is to talk to people at this point. And so that's where, and we can talk a little bit more about the secret sauce there offline, but that's where marketing is going. That's where law is going. That's where financial services are going. That's where we're all going there. And we get to get there first, just like the, code generation
came first, right? Like it kind of happens to the engineers first, and then it expands into the other areas. But that's where we're at, and that's where I see kind of the future of knowledge work going, is like fully baked agentic workflows. I mean, I've got probably 6 agents that are working right now that I'll check in with after this, after we hang up.
Yeah, I really love that too. And even outside of like agents and automation, one thing I'll just say is it's really fun to let the coworker go like do some research and work on it for like 15 minutes or more. And you come back and you're like, oh, okay, I needed to stand up and, stretch my legs and, fill what was empty and empty what was full. And I come back and it's like, oh, my assistant's got that report ready or has found that answer for what I wanted. And having it kind of work even just on its own or in the background is really cool. I think that's a game changer.
Yeah, right before this call, and I use Sonar for this, Perplexity Sonar.
Yeah.
I said, "Hey, I'm hosting Mike Montague from Avenue9 in like 45 minutes. Go find everything you can find about him, and then distill it down for me, and help me like find areas that we should explore on the podcast. The things I know about you, man."
There's a lot out there. I've been in
Yeah,
internet
well, you've
marketing
been creating content for a long time,
and
so
broadcasting for a long time. Yeah.
yeah, and so it took a while, but no, it's a good tip is you can send them on these long runs it's very impressive what they can come back with. It is. Well, okay. Again, Mike Montague from Avenue9, thanks so much for having us. Where can people find you if they want to reach out?
Yeah, well, like we just mentioned, I've been in internet marketing for a long time, so I'm not very hard to find. If you type Mike Montague or Avenue9 into any AI or search engine, you'll find me. There are some other Mike Montagues out there, but you'll find the bald guy that does marketing. And the Human First AI Marketing Podcast has been going for over a year. It's doing really well. Over 70,000 other people are subscribed on YouTube, so you might want to go check that out. Avenue9 AI on YouTube is a great place to find me too, and LinkedIn, of course. Thanks for the opportunity, and love to connect with anybody and answer any questions I can.
Thanks again, Mike. Take care.